Hi, Tulio.
Hi, Sandra.
Hey, hi. Okay.
Hi. Yeah, technic.
Nice to see you again.
Yes, indeed.
Unfortunately, under these circumstances and not live as we planned, but you know,
Yeah, you can change it. It would be nice to come to Belgrade, but we never know. Maybe another time.
yeah, I hope so. I hope so. Since this festival is dedicated to European Prize for Literature, which you won in 2013,
Yes.
I would like to start from that, if you agree, and ask you a bit about the prize. Now, before you were awarded, your novel Amok was recognized in Luxembourg, and something which is really interesting, it was an inspiration for the movie, which was even nominated for Oscars for the best foreign movie. Now, it didn't get to the finals, but still, I really think it's a big deal. So I would like to say congratulations for that as
Thank you very
well.
much.
Yeah, and then when you received this award, suddenly it was recognized internationally, right? So actually what I wanted to ask is what did this prize mean to you, and how did it affect your career?
Oh, well, the prize came as a big surprise. I didn't even know that I was in a pool. I didn't even know the prize that well. It was a time when I didn't care about prizes, well, like a poster some writers had. It was a book was very, very different from all the other books I wrote before and even since. But of course it was very personal to me because of the topic and everything. I think we come to it. And so yeah, it was a big surprise, and yeah, everything kept moving. We got the prize, we made a movie out of it. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I liked it very much. I went to Brussels. I saw other writers, other crazy writers who get the prize in 2013, and it's always a big opportunity to talk to writers from other countries. That is the most beautiful part in it. And of course, also people started to talk about what's in the book, about the topic, about the problems the book speaks of, and so that was very, very important to me. Then of course, yeah, translations who started in Italy, in Serbia, but Germany too. So no, yes, of course, for my career it was, call it a career boost, of course, at least in Luxembourg. I was recognized in Luxembourg, yes.
Well, now that is interesting because, Luxembourg is a small country, and Luxembourg is
Yes, I
a
know.
really, really small language. I think that it doesn't get translated as much as probably you would like.
Mm-hmm.
When we think about Luxembourg, I can say that here in Serbia, and I think maybe in the world as well, we see it as a kind of a exotic country, even though it is in Europe. We don't learn about it in schools, so we don't know much about its history, about its culture, about your way of life, if you want. What do you think, because of that and because of this prize and now translations in several European countries, this book, Amok, could be, for some readers, some kind of introduction to Luxembourgish literature. So what do you think about that? I mean, how does your novel represent Luxembourg to foreign audiences?
Well, I suppose not in a very, very beautiful light. That's for sure, because it's based on some very, very dark topics, but in a kind, it's a good way. Of course, the Luxembourgish cliché, there are banks everywhere, and we are all super, super rich and just rolling around in cars out of gold, which is it's total cliché. Of course, there is a lot of wealth in Luxembourg, but there are a lot of people working here but who are not very well off. So the difference between rich and poor is quite big. And you see it also, it's kind of the problem I'm writing about it. Also, everybody is just, well, like in many European countries, everybody is just looking to make a living, is working a lot, and, well, want to have children in a way or another, and these children, these kids are more or less left alone. So that also will cause problems. A school who cannot follow, well, it's what they speak about. But it's not the glamorous side of Luxembourg you see in the books, that's for sure.
Yeah, and of course, this book, well, you can say, I mean, we should keep it simple, right? This book is about problematic behavior in teenagers, among the other topics. And we have teenagers who are, as you said, left alone, who don't live in normal families, right? And suffer from drug abuse and some illegal activities and similar problems. So also, which is important to say, I think it is a common topic in your literary work. But is this a common problem in Luxembourg? You work as a teacher, so I think that your experience is really pressure. So you know what you are writing about, actually. But do you think that it is becoming a global problem, you know? And do you think that this problem is more common today than it was in the past?
Well, there's a lot of big questions. Let me say, it's not so the book about problems. It's the core. It's a love story, I would say. It's a coming of age story. It's like a road movie. It's like I don't know, Thelma and Louise or Bonnie and Clyde or things you've seen in movies, for example. The thing is, yes, I'm teaching in a specialized class who tries to hold young, well, children, kids, 13, 14, 15-year-olds who for different reasons are dropouts at school, who don't come to school or who behave in a way that's quite impossible to stay in a normal class, and to give them a structure, second chance and so on. And I do this for about 20 years now, and yeah, I see a lot of kids coming by. Some got lucky afterwards, some don't, and I suppose all these things, all these lives I saw, I just try to give them a voice, to show what happens. I have no answer to problems and so on. I'm not a politician, and I'm not even a sociologist. I'm merely a teacher, I'm a historian, and I'm a writer. So I try to give them a voice, to show a story, to take the reader with me in this story. This it's like how would you say in English, a fuite en avant. That's they run to nowhere. Well, they run. It's Amok. They run like hell. Maybe they will crash their head against a wall at the end. So it's just to talk about it, to show it. Yeah, afterwards solutions have been found, but I think it's a real problem, not only with depending on class, for example. It's not just a question of poverty, but it's a question of being left alone because parents don't have time or just so interested in their own problems that they can cope with that, yes, somehow, I suppose it's a larger problem. I would say, it's getting bigger, I would say, yes.
And now, I mean, of course, we have to mention the pandemic, right? Because when I was reading your novel and then reading about, this problematic behavior in teenagers, I often read that one of the reasons for this kind of behavior is social isolation. And that was interesting to me, well, today, right? Because we have this pandemic and we have some kind of social distancing and social isolation. So how do you think that will affect teenagers and you know, young adults today? Will it get worse, or maybe they will learn something from this, you know, connect in some different ways perhaps, or what do you think?
Again, I don't know, and it depends how long it will take, but it's clear, I see it very clearly. In Luxembourg with the pandemic, the older students stay at home 1 week, and 1 week they come to school. So they are not totally cut off from school. But if you ask them, yeah, how is it about? It's very clear. Students who have a good social background, who have a big house, their room and so on, well, it's quite nice. I see my family, we do things, I sleep late, I play PlayStation too much and so on. It's more or less okay. It's like holidays. For students who don't have these chances, who have the small houses, who have to share their rooms with sisters or brothers, for example, who have problems at home with their parents and so on, it's a catastrophe. It's, they say it even, oh, I'm so glad I'm back at school, because even if I don't like school and teaching and teachers, but being at school, having somebody who tells you what to do, what not to do, seeing friends, otherwise you cannot see. My school is in kind of a rural area. They live in small villages. They are not so connected. So, yeah, no, it's a disaster. And we also see it when they come back. It's a very more difficult case. It's very difficult to socialize them again, to come, to make an effort, and so on and so on. So no, it's quite dramatic. For the dramatic cases, it even gets worse.
Yeah. Okay. I would like to go back to the literature again. You can easily say that these taboo topics, difficult topics, are getting more and more popular in books for young readers, for teenagers. So we often read some of the most popular writers from America, for example, are writing about these difficult topics like serious illnesses and sexual orientation, drug abuse, and similar different topics. But it seems like teenagers like to talk about that is a topic that interests them. But then again, since I work in a publishing house and I get to talk with parents a lot, I noticed that sometimes, not all of them, but well, more often than not, actually, you hear, you know, when you, for example, try to recommend Amok and you tell them what it's about, some of them would be like, oh, no, please, give me something easier. You know, I think he or she is too young for that. You know, there's time for such difficult topics. Let them enjoy, and so on. So my question is, again, since you're working as a teacher, so you have some experience, right? And working with kids from different backgrounds, which is also important. I wanted to ask you, what do you think about this? Are they really interested in reading about real-life problems of their peers, and we are actually protecting them too much? Or maybe they are just interested in it because it's popular, you know, so they are just part of the wave. What do you think?
So two things. So one thing, I won't say it's a misunderstanding, but when I wrote this book, I didn't write it especially as a young adult reading. I just wrote the book. I would say for adults mostly, because the language is very, very rough, but it's the language they speak. There is no happy ending at all. It's Well, you can root for, I hope that you can root for the protagonist, but they are not very sympathetic in a certain, well, they are sympathetic in a certain way, but they are lost. It's more like, say, natural born killers in a sense, like, it's not romanticized. I try not to romanticize too much. So in fact, I didn't know exactly for whom I would write it. I wrote it for me, actually, just to get off steam, I suppose, at the time. And yes, when it was translated also in Germany, for example, it was specially classified as literature to be read in school classes. And it does not, I don't think that it will work out well because it's too rough in a certain sense. So that's one thing. It's not a book that is clearly, that has a clear target. It's not written with, that's my public I want to address. It addresses to most everybody. And what was very strange, the movie is a bit softer than the book. When we showed it at school, some hard-boiled 12-year-old thought, oh, well, it's okay, it's life. And some very, well-protected grammar school kids from 17, 18-year-old found it appallingly shocking. So it depends also, it says use and choose. Then when it comes to reading, well, reading young people will always read. I think that's true, but the hardcore will always read. I think we are losing the middle. The middle is the one who didn't read a lot, but took a book nowadays with all the media, with there's a series you can watch. I also like to watch series, so it's not the problem. But they also tell stories. They also tell good stories, and it's easier, of course, to follow this story on Netflix or to mention it, for example, than to read the book. So, and the one who read, I think reading this, it's too, they read fantasy more. They would like something even very, very brutal, like Game of Thrones or things like this, but it has to be certainly fantastic. Even if Amok is fantastic in a certain way, there are some surreal elements, but I don't know. I remember for myself, so nobody knows about it. We when I was 13, there was Christiane F., Die Kinder vom Bahnhof Zoo. It was a German, it was a German book about kids taking drugs and selling themselves for prostitution in Berlin in the 70s. It made a big shock at the time. It was read a lot. Nowadays, I don't know. I don't see such books coming out. Maybe it's a sign of the times. I don't know.
It's funny you mentioned that book because I wanted to mention it too as an example. I was reading it. My mother gave it to me when I was really, really young. I mean, I was in elementary school. I'm not really sure, maybe 12 or 13. And it was that kind of book here in Serbia, that parents gave to you because you could, because it is a really shocking book, especially when you are a kid and you don't know anything, about the world. I think that when I was a child, I think we were more innocent, than kids today. So that was really traumatic experience, and I don't know, maybe it's I mean that role of a book was really important because it was common thing, you are 12 or 13 years old and we are all reading a book and we're all traumatized, but maybe it did some good, because at such young age you actually had that picture in your mind and you were maybe even more careful with that kind of stuff. So I actually wanted to ask you, also one of my questions was, who was this book written for, right? Teens or adults, and perhaps parents, I don't know. I mean, the book really is brutal and shocking, and I think that maybe it could be read in a sense like we're children from station Seoul, right?
Oh, I suppose, yes.
Yeah. Okay. As look what can happen to your children if you don't pay attention, right?
Yeah, but it's, well, of course, in every book there's a message, but it's not why it's written. Yeah, they have, I would say, yeah, parents, but also politicians, teachers, yeah, have to open their eyes. But I regret a little bit, just typically Luxembourg, I suppose, is one of the cliches. We are the richest country in the world, take off, or yes, it's cut down. So there's this glamour facade that everything is right and that you can solve everything with money, but in fact it isn't right at all. There's behind the curtain, behind this Potemkin facade, there's a lot of trouble, a lot of pain that some people just do not want to see. And yeah, it was more something like this. It was to create a shock for good times. And at the same time to tell a story. It's all about telling stories. I think it's a fiction, in my opinion, is always more powerful than, I would say, how you call it, a récit, like like journalist piece, for example. I'm not so good in it. I prefer to make a fiction out of it, or even a movie can shake people up and so on. So, well, it's all I can do, so I do what I can do, and it's writing fiction.
Also, I wanted to ask about the title of the book. It is really interesting, and I think that for people who don't know anything about the book, it could be a bit confusing, right? Because we have two such opposite terms in the title, Amok and love story. Also, we decided to go with the original word because I think it was even more interesting that way. We do not use that word in Serbian that much. So I think that maybe the shock is even better, you know, because we used on the back of the cover, we used the dictionary reference, you know, for people who doesn't know what it's about. And when they read it, I think it's even, I don't know, more shocking, you know, like, oh my God, how these two things come together. So please explain. How do these things go together, actually?
Yeah, well, it's difficult to say. I chose the title for different reasons. First, it's just one word. I like it's just one word. It's like a punch in the face, amok, what is going to happen. And at the same time, well, here in Luxembourg or even Germany, amok, it's more or less the same thing like a school shooting. If somebody comes in school, like all the time, I suppose, the reader will say that will happen at a certain point. You could imagine it would happen, but it will not happen. So it's just I always like to confuse a little bit as a reader. This is the first time, and then, but what he does, he just, I don't know if you can say it in English, he just stands besides of him. Who is this? So the main character has no name, and he cannot express himself. He's quite helpless. We see clearly that he wants to do things, that he wants very normal things. He wants love from his mother. He's interested in girls. He even tries to work along in school. So finally, it's a very normal child, but he has a very troubled background, we'll find out, and he cannot, he just goes on and goes on. He stands and he runs like powerless in some direction. And we have his friend, let's call it his friend, who is, I don't want to spoil too much, who is very witty, who has a loose mouth, who always has right things to say, and so on. so it expresses also this the hero, the protagonist, he is powerless in a certain sense, and all he can do is run in one direction, and he struggles around, and he doesn't get out. At the same time, it's a child. He listens to romantic music, and he's ashamed of it, and he just wants to kiss the girl, like I suppose every 14-year-old fantasizes to do so, and both are more or less in love. I suppose he more than her, and it's a love story. It would be a very, very friendly, stupid love story that more or less everybody experienced, I hope, at this age, but in their situation it will turn out tragic. But at the same time, all they want is to go, the biggest dream they have is to go to an attraction park, for example, to live in, it's called Phantasialand, which is an attraction park in Germany. It's also, of course, the country of all the fantasies, and it's very sweet in a certain way. And so, yeah, it's a love story. At the same time, it's something very different. It's a run, it's the jump off a cliff, basically, I would say.
Another thing, well, the thing that probably made the biggest impression on me is the difference between Shirley's. Shirley is that friend of his, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Love interest.
Yes.
So she's a young girl. She's a 13-year-old girl who, and when you read the book, you can easily forget that because of her way of life. So what I wanted to say, so the biggest impression on me was that difference, again, opposite things, right? Between her way of life and that inner child that shines through. And it is really heartbreaking, you know, the way she's living, and that idea and that wish for her to go to the Fantasia land, right? And just be a child that she doesn't have a chance to be in her everyday life. So what is the message behind that?
Yes, no message. What I see, it's exact age of children I see in these classes, and some speak even rougher as they do. Some they are chain smoking from the age of 10. Even parents buy cigarettes, for example, and I don't know. Yes, they had sexual experiences at 12. Well, I suppose, and all this, they're drinking, they are have experiences with drugs, they come to school that they are drunk, and so all this happens. But if they are in school, if you speak a little about it, if you hear what are their dreams and their wishes, it's very, very, yeah, it's childish, it's conservative in a way. They dream of having a house and a family and kids and a dog and work and then so on. It's that's what's heartbreaking. It's a sheer reality. They have grown up way too fast because they had to at a certain point, because otherwise I suppose they would be dead and so on. But it's always so, yeah. Like you said, you were so innocent at the age of 12, and when you read these books, it's a good thing. And well, for some children don't have this luxury, I would say, to be a child as long as possible. Well, if you're still a child at 22, it becomes a little bit difficult, but yeah, there's an age for everything. It sounds very conservative what I'm saying, but it's not the point. Everybody can do what he wants, but you clearly see that for some children it's all way, way too early. But yeah, it's how it happens. I just see it, and yeah, I write it down.
Well, yeah, as I said, that was really, really heartbreaking, because I think you really chose I don't know, it was, as you said before, it was really punch in the face, you know, the fact that there are who knows how many kids living that way, and it's something that's you just cannot wrap your mind about it. It's unbelievable. But another thing that was really interesting to me now, I don't know, we should put this somehow, not to spoil anything, it's hard, but your writing style in this book, as you said, it is very direct and maybe even brutal, but that is the realistic language, right? You hear it a lot after all, and that is the language they use and that they understand. But something also interesting in your writing style here, which we could say was a bit original, right? It is something that we do not see often in literature, is the second person point of view. And of course, there is a reason for that. But I wanted to ask you, how did you come up with that? Because it is not really common. I mean, there are some books written in that way, but really not common. And was it hard to write that way?
No, in fact, it was from this point on, it went on very easy. Because the first thing, I thought I will write it in the third person, like yes. So the writer knows everything and he says how they behave. But that was cheating. It's what we see. Of course, it's easy to say, yes, professor, he knows like children function, and it's completely wrong. Well, if it had been a journalistic piece, it would have been written this way. The kids of 12 and 13, they're doing this and blah, blah, blah. And we know why, because, well, I didn't want to write it this way. At the same time, the protagonist, like many kids in this age, cannot express themselves. They don't have the words to defend themselves. That's why they hit, for example, why they go over to violence, because they cannot express themselves. And my protagonist had to be somebody who cannot express themselves, so I couldn't choose the first person, because how would it go? So yeah, finally it was the second person who emerges. And yeah, it had to be a twist, of course, to take the second person in, who's a literary twist, or you can see a movie twist. It was also in a movie, it works perfectly, and it's his best friend Johnny, who is super fantastic, super Johnny, and it's not spoiling a lot to say at the beginning. Johnny is, well, he becomes stranger and stranger. If you go on reading at a certain point, the reader would say, wait a minute. And that's also one, I suppose, to capture the reader, to keep the reader focused on the thing. I won't say more about it, but it's clear. It's to choose a point of view, and it's the point of view I chose, and I think it works quite well even in a movie afterwards.
Yeah, and it leaves a lot for interpretation, right, for everyone who read the book, especially about Johnny, right, who he is, and yeah, but that's a big spoiler. We don't want to.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So well, since we are getting to the end of our little interview, I of course wanted to ask you if you're working on something at the moment, and if you are, if you can give us a little sneak peek.
Oh, yeah, I was quite busy. In fact, I published a novel a few months ago.
Oh, congratulations.
Sorry?
I said congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it was a novel in French. It's what I wanted to do. It's what is the language I write mostly. So, no, it was well received. I'm quite glad about it. It's very difficult, very different, but at the same time, it's also, you are not really sure with who is writing, who is telling the story. It's I like to do it this way. I'm writing a play for theater. Maybe there's another movie going around. I'm trying to write a treatment. So there's a lot of projects going on. So I'm very happy and very busy, and well, I have to work, of course. I'm still a teacher at the other hand, so yeah, no, I keep busy.
Okay, so you use this pandemic in a really productive way.
Yeah, no, it's the first. In fact, we just here in Luxembourg, we had just at the beginning in last March, we had a few weeks of complete lockdown. Since then, like school is always functioning, half of students are in homeschooling, so I even have more works than in normal. So yeah, no, I cannot say that I am all in pandemic lockdown, just writing. No, I'm afraid not.
Okay, Tulio. Thank you once again for joining us, and thank you for this interesting conversation. It was really, really an honor, and I really hope that, well, this will end soon, and that we will have a chance to see you in Belgrade one day and talk about some other novel, perhaps.
Yeah, if you translate, Sam, I will gladly come, of course. Thank you very much for the invitation. It was a pleasure, and yeah, maybe we'll see in real life in Belgrade. Yeah, it would be great. Thank you very much. Bye.